Welcome to another biblically based look into today's news from Christian Voice New Zealand. Now here's Mike Bain.
Hi there, and thanks for pushing that play button. Recently I mentioned no one wants to go to church anymore, and worldwide survey figures are showing this up. I mentioned I was alarmed to see a recent survey result where only 6% of the population in the United Kingdom were attending church, but I was thrilled to see the positive attitude taken by the UK Evangelical Alliance to not just sit on its hands and do nothing, and they've formulated a plan to turn the tide. Well, not all is lost, as contrary to appearances, the millennial generation is not lost to the church. And that is this largest generation in history holds a massive promise for the church and for the gospel ministry. It's been a great privilege to look at thousands of faithful young people pushing back against the culture and standing for the Christian faith. But these young people aren't coming to the seminary or Bible college looking for a minimalistic, moralistic, superficial, cultural Christianity. They come because they want to be counted faithful in a long line of gospel ministers that stretches from the book of Acts to the coffee shops, neighbourhoods, campuses and cities of their own day. But why is it that we hear so many times that they're leaving by whatever exit they can find just as fast? Straight up, the reason? Churches often fail young Christians. We, and I have to say we, as we are the church, have failed to form them in the faith, to ground them in truth and to prepare them for discipleship in this post-Christian age. A recent US study of Christian adolescents and young adults undertaken by the University of Notre Dame, headed by sociologist Christian Smith, points to the fact that in the main, their understanding of Christianity is identified as moralistic therapeutic deism. Now, while these were American kids surveyed, it's worthwhile noting that teenagers, regardless of what planet they're on, are pretty much the same. But here's the issue. The researchers found teenagers and young adults believe that there is indeed a God, yet their understanding of God is basically deistic. They believe there's a creator, but he's removed from the world and not actively involved in their lives. These young people are also moralistic. They believe there's an authoritative and ultimate moral law to which we're all accountable, but the moral code of tolerance and acceptance as defined by modern secular elites is essentially good. These young people are committed to a therapeutic understanding of religion, believing that the result of any good thing, including religious faith, must be that people will feel better about themselves, be happy in overcoming any hang-ups that they may have inherited from the past. But essentially, moralistic therapeutic deism essentially comes down to these 5 points. 1. A God exists who created and orders the world and watches over human life on earth. 2. God wants people to be good, nice and fair to each other, as taught in the Bible and by most world religions. 3. The central goal of life is to be happy and to feel good about oneself. 4. God does not need to be particularly involved in one's life except when God is needed to resolve a problem. And 5. When people will go to heaven, or good people go to heaven when they die. None of which is biblical Christianity in any recognisable form. Yet far too many young people in our churches believe it to be so. But the sad thing is that they take their moralistic therapeutic deism into the next decade of their lives. In recent years, Christians have been warned regularly that the millennial generation is growing increasingly hostile to biblical Christianity, specifically accusing conservative Christians of being intolerant on issues such as human sexuality. It's the dimension which most clearly demonstrates the unchristian faith to young people today, surfacing with a spate of negative perceptions such as being judgmental, bigoted, shouted, right-wingers, hypocritical, insincere and basically uncaring. In young adults, according to the Notre Dame survey, it found millennials identified a posture of judgment against homosexuality to be the #1 reason millennials rejected or abandoned Christianity. In a second project, the authors looked at the lives of young people inside the church and they found a similar pattern. So many church-going young people were expressing the concern that Christianity was simply too judgmental, especially on issues of sexual immorality and homosexuality in particular. And so it's become that these young millennials have disappeared from church attendance, missing in action, so to speak. It simply doesn't serve to deny that the church faces a massive challenge communicating the church of the Bible and the power of the gospel to the generation. The church should not compromise on its biblical stand regarding homosexuality, but it should remain firm. Granted, the church is not fully responsible for the predicament it finds itself in. And while it's true that the church has often failed both to teach faithfully and to teach lovingly, the fact is that the church finds itself now in an alien territory and in a post-Christian culture. This points to the fact that too many young Christians, or at least too many young people, who have been within our churches simply have no adequate notion of Christian truth and discipleship. They've been entertained, they've been coddled and cajoled, but they haven't been mentored, and they have not been disciplined in the love by the Christian community. We cannot possibly expect a generation of young Christians to be faithful if they see themselves as doing nothing more than parroting simplistic moral principles given to them by their parents and pastors. They'll only move into faithfulness if they're grounded in the fabric of the faith and in the deep truths of Christianity. They will continue in faithfulness only if they see themselves standing in continuity with a Christian community rooted in the apostolic age. The choice before the church is clear. We'll either ground this generation in the grandeur and glory of all the biblical Christianity represents, or we'll see the roster of the missing in action grow to even more tragic proportions. Now, seen in this light, the challenge serves as a catalyst to call the church to wake up from the moral slumber into the life of the bold and authentic Christian witness and faithful living.
Thank you for watching. Help us to spread this message by sharing it within your own network. For more information, jump online to our website, christianvoicenewzealand.com.